Hey guys, welcome back to episode 3 of Surf Simply's exercises and strength training. Today what we're going to go through are some exercises to build some paddle strength muscles. Now, all of these exercises that I'm showing you are going to be with body weight. And what you really want to be able to do is, of course, get in the water and paddle around, but some of us don't have that available to us, right? So when we're talking about building muscling for paddling, I'm not just talking about building strength in your shoulders and in your back. We also want to work on building that core because we want to have that stability on that board left to right. And we want to be able to have that core engaged in that stability while keeping our legs together. I say that because as soon as we spread our legs off of the tail of the board, we then remove any sort of counterbalance to our torso. So as we're paddling, we want to try to keep our legs together. So the other thing that we want to do with these paddle workouts is build up that muscling so we don't fatigue as we're navigating our way out into the lineup. We want to be able to do countless turtle dives. We want to be able to do countless press-ups and then still have enough energy to catch that wave of the day. So these next couple of exercises I'm going to go through with you are going to be slightly core heavy. We're going to do some push-ups as well. And like I said before, everything's going to be body weight as we go through these. So the first exercise we're going to go through is actually going to be a plank where we're going to rotate left to right. Again, we're going to be building a lot of that core so we can stabilize on that surfboard. Instead of doing the high plank, we're going to start off in low plank. So low plank, we're coming down to the ground. Arms are going to be about shoulder distance apart. My back's going to be nice and flat. As I switch over to my side plank, I'm going to go to my left side first. I'm going to rotate my left arm so it's now going to be like I'm punching my right arm. I'm then going to shift my body weight over, and I want to keep my left hip from touching the ground. I do not want to have that hip sag down at all. So I want you to think that you have a string pulling up your waist through to the sky. We're then going to rotate back over, dropping that right arm down, shifting that left hand so it again is facing 12 o'clock. The right arm's going to swing over like it's punching the left hand, and we're going to rotate back over. Okay, coming back around, dropping that left hand, right arm comes back out, and we're immediately switching back over to that left side. We're then going to bring that right arm back down, swap that left hand over. Again, keep that core engaged the whole time. You want to breathe the whole time. We're then rotating back up. So, dropping that left hand down, hands come back to about shoulder width apart. Now that's you can go ahead and do in the low plank. We can also do it in high plank. So, keeping those arms nice and shoulder distance apart. Now we won't have to rotate our elbows so our fists look like they're punching the other arm. We're going to keep that core nice and engaged. Shifting the feet over onto the outside knife edge. You're going to then rotate, bringing that hand up. Again, we don't want to have any sagging of that hip. You want to really try to bring that left hip away from the ground, that right hip closer to the sky. Okay? If you're finding that this is difficult to get to, stagger your feet on the floor. That's going to add a bit of balance to you. You're then going to rotate back down into plank and immediately slide your feet over to the opposite knife edge. Bring that body back up, keeping that hip nice and high. Rotating back down, hold in the plank for a second, and then shifting back over to that left side. Coming back down, good. Right side. Ooh. Good, coming back to center. So that's going to help us build our core. It's also going to help you build those shoulder muscles, that mobility in the shoulder by opening that chest up. Second move we're going to go ahead and do. Here we go. Second move we're going to do is a plank rotation. So again, we're going to come down onto the floor. we're going to come onto our elbows. This is going to be started in low plank. So you're going to bring that left arm over to the side because it is going to be a side plank. So we're going to come up again, hips going to stay off of the ground. My right arm is going to thread through my left armpit. I'm going to have some rotation in that shoulder. My chest is going to start pointing down to the ground, and then I'm going to come back around and up. Okay, so as I go through this movement again, my right hand is going to thread through my armpit region of my left hand. As it does that, I'm going to start to have some rotation of my upper body. So now I am facing that ground with my chest, and then I'm going to thread it back up, all the while keeping that core engaged. Now, what you're going to start to feel is that shoulder is going to get a little bit tighter. That's normal. If you're feeling any sort of pain, stop doing the movement. So again, it's going to be that right hand coming down and around, keeping that core engaged, feet together, and then threading it back up. And then you're going to swap and do the exact same thing on the opposite arm as well. You want to have that arm in alignment with your shoulder. We don't want to be out here having any sort of space where it's at an angle. We want to have everything be at 90 degrees, guys. So that shoulder is going to be at a 90 degree. My elbow underneath is also going to be at a 90 degree. Okay, so then you can come back over to plank, take a break, and then swap arms. Third exercise we're going to do high plank with lateral taps. Now, what I really like about this exercise is you're going to have to stabilize with one arm as the other arm is going outside of your reach. Let me show you what that looks like. So we're going to come into that high plank. Core is nice and engaged. As you're going to go ahead and start these lateral taps, what that means is you're going to shift the weight to one hand. So I'm going to shift the weight to my left hand. I'm going to try to keep my weight in the core centered between my 2 feet, and I'm going to tap outside of my mat, coming back down, shifting my weight to my right hand, tapping to that outside of that left mat. So again, we're going to shift the weight slightly, trying to keep that chest straight down, keeping our hips in alignment, tapping with that right hand, shifting, tapping with our left. And so you're going to want to do probably about 20 taps on between both hands. And again, you want to keep those arms in alignment with the shoulders. We don't want to have it reaching out over here. We want to be in that nice straight line with that shoulder blade. And again, trying to keep those hips fairly flat towards that ground. We don't want to have that side rotation as we're tapping. Again, keeping that core nice and engaged, tapping outside of the mat. Okay? So the fourth exercise we're going to do is called inchworms. Now, this exercise is a great one to introduce to any sort of warm-up that you're doing, because what it is you're going to be using your hands to walk your body out, and then you're going to follow with your feet. So what that looks like is you're going to start at one end of the floor or your mat. You're then going to bring your hands down to the ground. You can have this nice slight bend in your knees if you want to start. And then you're going to literally walk your hands out into that plank position. And then you're going to walk your feet, nice and tiny baby steps, to your hands till they're about shoulder distance apart again. And then you're going to step back and do the whole process again. So it's bending down with those arms, touching the ground. Knees can have a slight bend if you want. This is a great hamstring stretch as well. And then we're going to walk our body out, warming up those shoulders a little bit more. Coming into that plank position. Again, we're coming back to core. and then stepping those feet, tiny steps forward till you reach your point, and then you're going to come back up nice and slow and controlled. So if you can go ahead and get about 10 reps of this, you're going to find that your heart rate starts to go up a little bit more. Your shoulder and your whole body is going to feel pretty warm after doing those. The fifth exercise that we're going to go through is a series of different types of push-ups that you can do to help build that upper body strength, okay? So the first type of push-up we're going to go through is that regular push-up. We talked about this in our first episode. And so again, we're coming into that high plank. Arms are going to be shoulder distance apart. And I'm going to lower my body down, my chest down, till it has about that fist space in between it and the ground, and I'm coming back up. So notice my arms are coming out as I'm doing this push-up. My elbows are splaying out as I'm doing this push-up. That is what I want. I want to go ahead and start to think about which muscles I'm engaging. I'm engaging my pectoral muscles. I'm engaging my muscles in my back as well. So again, you're going to have your hands shoulder distance apart. We're going to lower our body down till there's about that space for a fist. We're going to come back up. Like we talked about in that first episode, if that's not in your repertoire yet, drop those knees down. And again, keep that back flat, core nice and engaged. We're going to come down and straight back up. So that's one variation of the push-up that you can do. We're going to talk about a couple different other variations. So what we can then go ahead and start to do is, instead of having our hands shoulder distance, we're going to talk about doing a wider push-up, okay? So hands are going to be a little bit wider than shoulder distance at this point. I'm going to then engage my core again, and I'm going to push my elbows out as I drop down, bringing my body into that 90 degree, coming back up, okay? On these, we don't want to go further than that 90 degree with our arms. That's a lot of strain on your shoulders. So just keeping it to that 90 degree, coming back up, okay? Again, we're keeping the core nice and engaged, back's nice and flat, and we're pushing those elbows out to that 90 degree, and then coming back through. Again, the other variation, drop those knees, core's engaged, back's nice and flat, and you can continue to do the same movement from this position. So that's going to be our wide push-up. We then have our push-up that's more aimed at hitting those tricep muscles. And so again, we're not going to come past that 90 degrees with this movement. Our hands are going to go ahead and be a little bit closer in position than that shoulder distance. It's going to be a tighter, a shorter distance between your hands. So slightly further in, and instead of pushing the elbows out, you're going to tuck your elbows into your side here, okay? So elbows are going to be in at our side. We're going to hold that 90 degrees and come back up. Okay, so again, everything's starting from that high plank. The difference with this push-up from the others is you're tucking your elbows into your rib cage, keeping that 90 degree, coming back up. The other variation, of course, is to drop those knees down. And again, we want to go ahead and keep the hands in line with the shoulders. We don't want to push back too far. And we're going to keep our elbows nice and tight to that 90 degrees, coming back up, nice and tight, 90 degrees, coming back up. So what's really cool about having these multiple different types of push-ups in your arsenal is you can start to thread them together and create a movement with our push-ups. And what I mean by that is we can start off with having our regular push-up here. So starting hands about shoulder distance apart, dropping down till you have that space where your fists can go in, coming back up. And then we can walk our hands closer together. And we can then work on, okay, I'm going to keep my elbows tight and do that tricep push-up and come back up. Then we can step our hand wide again and go right back into that regular push-up. So now you can go ahead and combine these movements together and alternate, and that's going to also help you build that endurance with the muscling. So our next exercise we're going to go through are dips. And dips, typically you would want to go ahead and find a chair or a step to go ahead and do these on, but you can also do them on a flat surface. Depending on how much pressure you want to put onto your triceps, you can either have your feet out nice and flat, bringing those hips up. Hands are going to be facing towards, or your fingertips are going to be facing towards your feet, and your hands are going to be about shoulder distance apart. So again, we're going to be engaging the core. The hamstrings are going to get involved in the glutes in this, if you so choose to keep your legs out straight. And then the movement is going to be dropping your body down, pushing your elbows back till just about your butt touches, and then coming back up. So again, trying to keep those hips up as you go through this movement, dropping down, pushing those elbows back, and then coming back up. Okay? Now, that's going to be a little bit more difficult than if we come into with our feet at that 90-degree angle. You're then going to drop your butt down, pushing out those arms, the elbows, and then coming back up. Again, it's another tricep exercise. Ideally, we want to try to keep that core engaged as we're doing this exercise. So again, working on those triceps, working on the core, we're going to drop that weight down and then push back up, engaging those triceps. You do not want to have your hands facing outward. You won't get that elbow bend. And you want to try to keep them in line with your shoulders. As everything else we do, we want to keep that body in alignment. So again, coming down, pushing those elbows back, and then coming on back up. The next exercise we're going to do are back extensions. And this is going to be really helpful for when you're paddling out, because it's going to allow you to build that muscular endurance in your lower back, to keep that slight arch in your chest. That's going to allow you to look behind you and also engage those muscles in your core and your back as you're paddling. What's really cool about this movement is you can then start to practice having your legs together as you want to have when you're paddling, and build that into being a habit instead of having the legs splayed. So what does a back extension look like? We're going to come down onto the ground. My legs are going to be together. My hands are going to be out front. I'm going to raise my chest up off of the ground, feeling the tightness in my lower back, and then come back down. Lifting up, back down. Now, as that becomes easier and easier and you're able to hold it for a longer period of time, we can then start to incorporate the legs into this movement. So both the arms and the legs are going to lift up, come back down. Lift up, come back down. Once that starts feeling easy, we can add some movement into our legs and into our arms. So maybe I start to move my arms, not my legs. So I'm going to come up. Or I move my legs in a scissor-like motion. And then we can put it all together. And what that's going to allow you to do is help build that core strength. That's going to allow you to build that lower back strength as well. What we don't want to do is hyperextend or go too high with our chest, because that's where we compromise that lower back a little bit. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you can add some of those exercises to your training schedules and your training plans, and that hopefully you start to feel the benefits of them with your paddle outs. Hope to see you again next week. Have a great one.